In today's video, we're going to talk about buyer hesitancy in the real estate market, what it is, where it's coming from, and how to overcome it. Let's dive right in. It's no secret that the real estate market is a little bit weird right now. There's a lot of home buyers and home sellers that are kind of just like waiting to see what happens, wishing rates were at 2% so they could lock in low payments and sell for stupid prices. Fact of the matter is, I don't think that those are coming back to us anytime soon. What we're seeing is a lot of hesitancy on buyers' parts to complete transactions. They don't seem to have a problem going to open houses, even making offers, but it's following through on those offers where we're seeing a higher dropout than typical. This isn't just on flipped homes or investor-owned properties. This is retail homeowners that we're listing for retail buyers, like the mom and pop type place that doesn't include like the negative connotations of a flipped house. We're even seeing it on selling inventory to flippers that are looking for opportunities. So when I talk about buyer hesitancy, what I'm talking about is the tendency to pull out of a deal or kind of go into it with cold feet. Before I think we can accurately kind of address how to handle it, I think we need to talk about where it's coming from. The first place that it's coming from, I kind of already hinted at, which is rates. Properties are significantly less affordable right now than they were a few years ago. Now, I'm not even talking about like the buying frenzy of the 2% rates. I'm talking about just when things were a little bit more like normal, even pre, you know what happened, right? The more something is going to cost, especially on a recurring basis, I think the more cautious people are to enter into it. It's a reason why like gyms with no commitments and low monthly costs are super appealing to people. Hey, I could just get out at any time if I don't like it. It's not quite the case as something you're committing to for 30 years, especially when people are telling you that rates right now simply are not good, which kind of leads me into the second reason, which I think really is public opinion. It's a lot harder to do something like buying a house when everybody's telling you that you shouldn't be, or that you should wait for rates to drop, or that the economy is going to go down, or property values are going to cut in half. I don't have a crystal ball, and the point of this video isn't to tell you if they are or not, but it's to address like where this kind of issue is coming from. If you walk by any newsstand or turn on any news channel, you're going to be drowned in differing opinions of the economy, talks about inflation, issues with affordability. One thing I find with me personally, I'm a little bit of a creature of habit. I like to be comfortable. It is uncomfortable to buy a house, especially if that's increasing your cost of living when everybody's talking about that as an issue right now. The third reason that we kind of already hinted at that I've done another video on is not only the economy, but also the presidential election. People are kind of like, what's going to happen? Where's this going to go? How is it going to affect or impact me or the economy? Maybe it's better to just wait until the dust settles. Somebody might like the idea right now of being a homeowner or of buying their first or next home. But as the reality starts to set in of like, what's this going to cost, the amount of work it's going to take to move, the potential risks that are out there, it's enough for people to kind of look for a reason to change their mind after they've started the process of buying a property. So we've talked about buyer hesitancy in the real estate market, what it is and where I believe it's coming from. Let's talk about kind of the best ways to handle this if you're a real estate agent or a homeowner or an investor trying to sell right now. The first thing that we can do is really try to pre-vet who it is that we're entering into a contract with. Really simple way to do this is just look at the terms of their offer. How much money are they putting down in earnest money deposit? If somebody's only willing to risk $100 right now to buy my property, I don't know that that's going to be worth my time. If they end up pulling out for some emotional reason, then I'm left holding the bag, and it's very likely my mortgage, my taxes, my insurance, all of that cost me more than simply what their EMD is. So that's one thing I'd really look at. Like, what is my monthly burn rate on this property? If it's going to take 45 to 60 days to close, I want to make sure that I'm not worse off having taken that person's offer. We can also look at how much down are they putting on the property. If I've got a buyer using a conventional mortgage and they're putting 50% down in cash, I have very little worry about that deal falling through because they can't get the mortgage across the finish line or because they're super worried about the payment on it. If they're putting 50% down in cash, that's probably a pretty good sign that they're going to follow through on it. I'd be a little bit more hesitant if it's a like FHA 3.5% down deal and they're asking for all sorts of credits and stuff. Now, when I bought my first house, I could barely afford it. We were a 3.5% down FHA and we barely pulled that thing off. So I'm talking from experience. That first house I bought was a big stretch versus the second and the third was much more of like, yeah, I'm buying this place. I'm putting this much down. I'm pre-approved. I'm good to go. I know the process. We can also look at anything the party across from the table has told us about their situation. Are they moving into town for a job transfer? Cool. They need somewhere to go. That feels great. Versus just like, I'm tired of, renting. I figured I'd try to buy my first place. Again, not that I have anything against first-time home buyers, but what if they decide, actually, I want to wait, right? Similarly, any motivations we have about why they like our particular property. Is it in the school district they want to be in? And some of this might not necessarily be stuff that they're going to tell us directly, but that we can kind of deduce and pull apart. The second way that we can really make sure our deal doesn't fall apart due to buyer hesitancy is to price it appropriately to begin with. If you take great photos, you have a very nice, clean house, you price it appropriately where it's priced to move, you're not shooting for some pie in the sky number. I did a whole other video on how to price properties, but we've priced it where we think it's really going to sell at this price. If we can drum up a decent bit of interest and end up in a multiple offer situation, which is still happening in August of 2024, we've kind of removed a lot of that fear of nobody's buying right now, the economy's bad, maybe I shouldn't do this one. It's very different when somebody else wants what it is that you also want and are trying to pull off. My wife and I were car shopping a couple days ago, and we went and looked at a new Lexus, and it was on the lot while we were there, 4 other people came to look at it. Now, I wasn't really in a rush. It was kind of more of just yeah, let's go see if you maybe want to trade in your Audi for this. But I can tell you the other people that were there were frenzied. Well, no, I got here second, so I get to drive it next. So similarly, if we have multiple offers, we can kind of erase a lot of that fear or concern of well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Well, I want this house, so do 4 other people. Feels a lot better than yeah, it's been sitting for 6 months. Nobody else wanted it. It's kind of ugly, right? So if you can price your property appropriately, we can intentionally remove a lot of that hesitancy or concern. The third thing that we can do is really look at things through their lens. If I've fallen in love with the house, which typically for most folks, buying a home is a very emotional, reactional process, what is likely to come up to make me change my mind? Repairs that the property needs, concerns I have about the quality of work, or maybe corners that were cut, or maybe the age of mechanical systems. My wife and I bought the house we're currently in. It was owned by a flipper that it seems kind of ran out of money, and we have to do all the windows. It's stupid expensive. Construction in SoCal is wild compared to what I'm used to in the Midwest. About 2 months into owning it, our water heater failed. I can tell you the thing was a dinosaur, and we knew it was going to go. But if I'm a first-time home buyer and I'm looking at all of these things that are potentially coming up, definitely could scare me away. So how we combat that? One, you can do something like a home warranty. I'm personally not a big fan of them, but I know a lot of buyers really appreciate them, and they're typically relatively affordable. The second thing we can do is make sure we've addressed, corrected, or disclosed any major concerns. Nobody wants to feel bait and switched, and there's nothing worse than going under contract to buy a property and then finding out it has mold in the vents, or the crawl space is falling in on itself. It's very different if I go into it knowing, hey, this is going to need some structural work, or hey, these mechanical systems are old, versus finding that out after I'm already kind of in the process. Internally, we're playing with a process where we market our properties as certified. meaning they would come with an independent home inspection from a third party, and of those items, what and how we addressed them and what is still outstanding. So somebody's going into the process with their eyes fully open versus not even having their inspection results back until they're like 2 weeks deep in the process and trying to figure out like, do we even still want this place? Well, you knew about those issues before you even made me an offer. At the end of the day, I find that it's super important to realize that it only takes one person to buy your property. Literally just one person it has to work out for. My goal with this video is giving you some tips and tricks to understand what's going on with them, maybe emotionally, psychologically, but also just the reality of the market right now is a little bit goofy. So the more we can make people feel comfortable and provide a better, cleaner, safer, higher quality product, the more likely that place is to fly off the shelf. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video on buyer hesitancy. It's just something I'm really seeing going on in the real estate market right now, and I'm not seeing a ton of folks talk about it. Again, my name is Ryan Dossey. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to like and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys next time.